Yeah, we're 10 days out from first game of the year, and it's an exciting time for our program. We're in a stage of practice now where I think we're prepared. If we had to play tomorrow, we could. So we're at that final stage where we're trying to find the 9 starters for opening day and avoid injury at the same time. And everything is looking really good. I mean, our team looks good. We've got depth at catcher. We've got depth on the mound or in the circle. We've got depth on the infield. We've got depth on the outfield. We've got veteran players. The competition in daily practice has been tremendous. I think it's big on a show that it'll turn out to be a huge advantage for our hitters to face the 2 All-American pitchers every day in their scrimmages and the work that they're getting against them. So it's kind of where we're at. We're healthy for the most part. We've had a couple injuries where we're going to have some players out early, but you should get them back later in the season. And then our starting lineup's intact and healthy, and we're good to go. I think in the circle and behind the plate we're healthy. So, kind of an overview of our team. We're winding down and ready to compete. Practice has been going really well. Really good, really good. I actually got to spend quite a bit of time in the field and enjoyed my off season. And we got started back on practice January 6th, and that kind of put a damper on the hunting season. But I had a really enjoyable year as I adapt to Louisiana. I'm kind of learning my way around. I'm meeting the right people that are finally remembering to call me and invite me. So it's good.
From what you've seen so far in January, how do you think this team is going to handle, I guess, chemistry-wise and leadership-wise, the high expectations on a day-to-day basis?
I'm amazed by our chemistry right now. I think our chemistry, I feel like it's as good as I've ever had a ball club at this time of year. And that kind of surprises me because the competition is so intense and so severe and deep that I was expecting to have chemistry issues. I thought that would be our number one challenge, and as of today, that's not been any factor. They just seem to um, really feed and thrive off each other in practice and enjoy each other. They're a fun, loose team, which is always a good sign. And we'll see. When you put 9 out there on opening day, that's when we'll know. 2 or 3 days after that, we'll know. But as of today, they're just amazing how they're gelling together and how much they seem to enjoy being at the ball field and around each other.
Have you said anything to the baseball players in passing in the hallway? Last season you guys had a tumultuous and just emotional season start because of the tragedy you guys went through. Have you said anything to the baseball players about what it takes just to deal with that at the beginning of the season?
Yeah, I think every situation is different, but there's no doubt. I was thinking today as I walked by the baseball field, there's got to be like moments when they're drifting and idle moments, and I think the key is they just have to stay focused on what they want. And they have to block everything out while they're on the field, and then deal with what you have to deal with off the field. But I'm sure it's really challenging for that program right now.
I'm interested. You've coached in pro fast pitch. Does this team remind you at all, kind of a pro team? You look at the roster and it's just like you got Oregon, you got Texas A&M out there, the people that have been here. It's just so many different people from so many different places, and it seems like that experience helps with the pressure.
I th- it, I think that the fact that we have a very veteran roster, an extremely talented roster, and a lot of depth that part is very similar to the NPF. I mean, the NPF, you'll have 23 players on your roster, and they're all Americans. They all are, and so you have to figure out a way to make them all feel like they're important and make them important. So you use their talent, and that similarity is there on this team. I've never had a team with the depth that we've got that deep in the roster, and trying to figure out how to use everybody and give everybody that feeling of importance to our ball club, which is important. So, yeah, I think that experience will come back to help in some ways.
And usually when you talk about getting to the Women's College World Series or whatever, it's in this case known to have that experience. But you talk about Megan, you talk about the girls that have come from Texas A&M. Like there's just so much that you can pull from. Does that kind of make it normal that chase, I guess, and not put too much pressure on it?
It's irrelevant when the season starts. We got to go. We've got to get it done on the field, And I think that deep down, maybe you'll have some inner confidence when you've got Kleist and Camuso that's been there. You've got Hudek and Alderink that's been there. You know, Coach Rob's coached in the World Series. Coach Lacey's coached and played in the World Series, I believe. And so I'm sure in some ways that will help us and benefit us to have that experience in our dugout. But at the same time, you can't rely on that. We got to get out there and get it done with our bats and with our glove and with our arms. And so it's going to come down to us, you know, what we do with our talent on the field and getting it done on the field this year in 2020.
How much do you think the non-conference schedule will help y'all with the postseason, like throughout the season and in the postseason?
I'm hoping it'll help a lot. That's the reason we scheduled it that way. I mean, I wish we could have got more games the last month of the season, but we can't. So the best we can do is really toughen up our preseason schedule. And this particular team, with the talent we have and the goals that we have, it was a no-brainer to just go out and try to add anybody that wanted to play or that could afford to, you know, that had room to put us on their schedule. And you know, even tougher, we're going on the road. So the biggest part I'm worried about that schedule is just the amount of travel. It's going to be really a strain on our student athletes physically. The weight room is going to get really disrupted, their weight room schedule. And so how we come out of that, and if we can avoid injuries right after that, especially that 12-game road trip from February 15th to March 1st, if we can avoid injuries in that first 2 weeks of March while we get them back on their regular weight room schedule, that's the part that worries me the most. The other part is just all benefit, and there's no doubt the experience we get of going on the road and playing those really tough, you know, Power 5 teams, it should come back to help us in the regional and super regional if we can, you know, take advantage of that. Don't ignore them. I mean, you know the athletes are going to enjoy. They're going to enjoy the polls. They're going to enjoy the talk. That's why we play the game. We talk about the game, enjoy the game. But the reality is, when you step on the field in practice or in a game, you have to block that out. It doesn't amount to anything. It doesn't matter. It can't be part of your daily focus. And just play the game as hard as you can. Practice the game as hard as you can when you're practicing. And the respect that they get through the polls and stuff, that's great, but it doesn't help us win any game, so we just block it out.
What's the next step in the evolution of your hitting? I know last season you guys took a huge step forward, so what's the next step of that?
Well, we started in late November, but practice started in January for us 2 years ago, and going into season, we didn't really spend time on the mechanical side of the game or really even on the approach side as much as we do now. So I felt like last year was really year one for us. And this is, to me, in my mind, it's year two. The kids understand the hitting routine now. I think our biggest focus this year is just to maintain. We really fell off the end of last year, and I'm not sure why that was. I want to think that I believe a lot of it was probably just mental fatigue from the things that happened early in the season and the early season dynamics. And so I'm hoping that we can stay balanced. And I think part of the way we do that is just to don't overhype the first month and a half. And then I have to maintain my energy. My energy and my focus has to stay. It can't get late in the season. It has to stay really strong and focused. And I think I can do better at that this year now that I realize, as I look back on last year, I really got tired in April and May. And I think that probably hurt my team a little bit when I lost my energy and my focus. So, we're going to make some adjustments, and hopefully we can just be steady is the main thing I want to see out of our team. I want to see us be consistent. And I do hope we'll have a little bit more power again this year. I was satisfied where we went last year as far as going up, but I want to go on up. I want to see us get up our 70 plus home runs this year, if at all possible.
Coach Taryn on board, how did that process go with you being able to bring her on board? What have you seen so far with her working with you being two big pitchers?
It just gives us another person that's been on the mound, that's been there and done that, been in the World Series, pitched against the highest levels, and a young voice to talk to our players. So from that perspective, it's really important to keep at least one or two young recent student athletes on your coaching staff to kind of infuse that young communication, young blood into your lineup, young enthusiasm, and then it gives us a really good arm to face in BP. She's able to throw a really high level BP of she can throw batting practice with velocity. I think that's going to help us. And then just her enthusiasm and things that she says to the kids. She's a gym rat, so she infects her personality infects our ball club with energy and enthusiasm, and you can tell that by watching her and the kids when they communicate with her.
Coach, you have two All-American seniors. How are you going to go about developing your future pitching staff with such a hard schedule and still giving the innings to the two ladies that need them?
We're all in on 2020. I'm gonna worry about 2021 and 2021, and you know our development is in the bullpen and on the side, and you know I've said since last fall that the kids that aren't starting this year are the most important part of our bullpen for the future and for our program. So we're not going to forget about them. But we're going to work really hard to develop them. I've told Coach Roberts, you know, that it's not Kleist and Summers the most important pitcher in our in our bullpen. It's the kids that are going to be here the next 3 years, and so we're not going to forget about them. But this year is about this year, and I expect Kleist and Summer, if they stay healthy, I expect them to start most of our games, and I'm not going to worry about next year. We're all in on 2020 season.
In that lineup, you last year you're basically riding one arm at the end of the year. What are the major benefits of having two plus arms like that?
Yeah, I need to correct Summer. She said she pitched 50-something games. She only pitched 50. She was in 50 games.
Only 50.
Only 50. So, yeah. You know, it's going to help us. There's no doubt. I mean, we saw Summer top out last year against Baylor with an 18 strikeout game. She was throwing 70, even clocked as high as 72 miles an hour in that game on a good radar gun, an accurate radar gun. And then by the regional time, she was 65, 66, and understandably so. Her arm got tired. And I believe that with having two pitchers that we can take the load off each other, and not just physically but mentally, it's going to be a lot less load on either one of those two girls. And then the biggest thing, if we do get into a situation where we have somebody get sore or hurt or injured, we can really be careful with soreness. We can stop with soreness before we know for sure if it's a hurt or just sore. And so there's a lot of advantage to having two good arms to really depend on versus one. You know what? They're similar in a lot of ways. They both can go up and down. They both have got a good changeup. But I think, the reality is their best pitch is different. Summer's got a tremendous rise ball. Her rise ball is really, really good, and it sets up a very effective drop ball. Kleist's got an extremely good drop ball, and it sets up an effective rise ball. And then they both got changeup, but Kleist changeup's just off the charts. It's really good. So they got different go-to pitches, and we can make them pitch different. We can focus and make them look dissimilar, even though they're basically similar. And velocity-wise, they're going to be pretty similar. Summer doesn't throw hard in the preseason. She hasn't the last 2 years, and then she turns into a superwoman whenever the first game starts. And I expect her to do that again this year. I expect her velocity will jump way up. It has every year. She's just a great competitor. And I think that's a dissimilarity where Summer, she's kind of she just kind of goes through the routine in practice. She doesn't really put a lot of emphasis on practice. She's a great, great competitor. And what I've noticed about Megan Kleist is she's a great preparation person. Like, she really prepares well. So it's good. I think that dissimilarity has been good in our bullpen for our young pitchers to watch and observe. And so there's several things that are similar and things that are dissimilar, but they're both immensely talented pitchers.
Have you noticed Megan push her in that aspect? She kind of spoke to it a little bit.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. I mean, when the person beside of you is working really hard, you have no choice but to work harder. And so Megan's been good for us. And in that same regard, Hudek did that with us last year. She works really hard. Camuso has been extremely hard worker in the fall and infected our dugout with enthusiasm and more of a Pete Rose type attitude in practice.
After you get through the non-conference portion of the schedule, what's the challenge of obviously focusing on the President Sun Belt Conference play, since obviously the competition isn't what it was in the non-conference, but also having a postseason mindset at the same time?
Yeah, what we'll do, we'll reevaluate when we get through that preseason and we get into our conference. We'll evaluate how our players did against those top programs and top teams and against top 20 competition. And then we'll make any adjustments. If we say, okay, this player just doesn't seem to be able to hit that level, we may make a lineup change based on that. If we go through that and we feel satisfied with all of our position players, we're definitely going to want to rest Rawls as much as we can that last 30 games of the year, try to keep our legs fresh behind the plate. We'll see how we come out of it. Do we come out of it with 3 losses where we think we might can host a regional? We've got to play a really hard, we'll just have to go for a win every day. If we come out of that with 8 or 10 losses, where we realize we're not going to host a super regional, but we're in pretty good shape for a regional, then, that we might affect us in a different way. If we come out of it and realize we're not going to host either one, regional or super regional, now we really start just being sure we're healthy for the postseason run. So we'll let the season play out and dictate how we handle our roster and our lineup and the substitutions. But the one thing I know, regardless of any scenario, we want to keep our 2 pitchers healthy, and we're going to want to rest Rawls behind the plate as much as we can this year.
How do you handle the 2 pitchers, though? Is it riding the hot arm or a lot of in-game changes and series changes or 50-50?
Yeah, I think it'll be 50-50. I think we'll start Summer game 1 out of respect for what she's done for our program the last 2 years. Glasco go game 2, and they'll alternate. The only variation from that I would expect in a regular season would be one, if we're playing a 2 or 3 game series where they've saw one pitcher in the early tournaments. I probably wouldn't start the same pitcher 2 days in a row against the same team. We'd probably flip the order. And then the other would be injury, soreness. If you see either one of those girls start 3-4 games in a row, then there's probably a soreness or an injury that we're trying to take care of. Because otherwise, we're just pretty well going to go 50-50 right down through the season.
We've been going for like 20 minutes, and you haven't even mentioned the Sun Belt Returning Player of the Year. What do you see? What can Alyssa do to up her game?
She's a great player, just a great athlete. She had class today, or she'd been here. She's a tremendous shortstop, and obviously she's a great hitter. She's batted .400. But what I want to see her do is have more doubles and home runs this year. I want to see her be consistent in her approach at the plate. I want to see her with 2 out, focus less on being a contact hitter with 2 out and a punch. She turns into a punch and Judy hitter, I tell her, when she gets 2 strikes. And I want to see her give up a few more strikeouts. She rarely strikes out. I'd like to see her sacrifice a few more strikeouts to have the doubles and home runs even with 2 strikes on her. But she's just a great player and a great leader. And with her and Alderink out there, it gives us a middle infield combination that we've not had ever since I've been here. It's really good.
You have a hitter, if I say so too, you'd be excited to see how far they've come along at the plate from last year to this year. Is there a hitter that comes to mind?
Carrie Boswell and Bailey Curry. Both those 2 kids have just really improved leaps and bounds, I feel like, based on what I'm seeing in practice. And I don't know which is the most improved, but they are both dramatically improved, and they're both going to have a big impact on our lineup, I believe.
What position, not necessarily you're most worried about, but what position is there the most competition at, and the most unsure maybe who's going to start opening?
The best competition is at third base and first base with Melissa Mayu and Brittany Holland at third base. They're just neck and neck right now. And then at first base, Carrie Boswell, Courtney Grimion, Bailey Curry, and then we could put Taylor Roman there possibly. So that's and those kids need to be in our lineup as much as we can. We're going to have to figure out how to get more than one of them in our lineup. But they're really battling it out at first base right now.
Coach, talking about Brittany Holland, I know she's been injured the last couple of years. How has she looked kind of returning from those games?
She's really made in strides in the last 30 days. Since we started practicing January 6th, from November till January 6th was a huge improvement. And then about January 20th, just like last year, her bat started firing, and she's really hitting the ball well. And she's really putting she's kind of, I wasn't expecting that competition on January 6th at third base. I thought Mayu had pretty well locked that position up in the fall. But Holland just played her way into competition there, and it gives us some really good depth. So she's running better. She moves better. you know, things like sliding, you still cringe a little bit when she slides, and I think she probably has a little emotional anxiety going on when she has to make certain movements after all she's been through, because that's tough. Come back from 2 straight ACLs, so I have nothing but admiration for her, and she is just a great team player. Like she belongs in the dugout, in the locker room. She's a ball player.
Could you alternate there for a while?
Could, yeah, it's that could happen. You know, we'll see. We got 3 or 4 more scrimmages. You know, if one of them gets hot in these last 3 scrimmages, they're probably going to get the nod there. And if they get hot when the games start, they may stay there. But if they struggle, we'll definitely alternate there.
Losing Keely Milligan, has that forced you to change your offensive game plan at all, losing those stolen bases?
No, we won't run. Yeah, that did change the dynamics of this ball club. The stolen base last year was a big focus. You know, I told Keely when she came here we'd try to break that record. And this year I'll really be conservative on the bases as compared to last year, because I have so much confidence in our hitters this year, and I want to avoid injuries. You know, there was times we're running with a 6-0 lead. I think this year once we get a 6-0, 7-0 lead, you know, we get in those type games, I'll probably just calm down a little bit just to avoid taking chances on injuries.
For local fans here, just in the region, how exciting is having that LSU series we play 2 here and then 1 there?
It's going to be huge. We play here on Saturday and there on Sunday. I think that those 2 games will be huge in attendance. I think they're going to be huge for softball, for fast pitch softball in this area. I think the young kids that play ball, I just think it'll be a great atmosphere at both ballparks, and I think it'll be really good for softball in general in this southern part of Louisiana.
Was it really the jacket that you needed to lose to hit those home runs?
I don't know. I think I need a lot more. I think I need 25 years back. But yeah. So at some point I had to take a mental break.
Doing that, how special was it going out there and all the girls really enjoying themselves? And you know, you heard Julie talk about it, and it seemed like a really special moment for everyone.
Yeah, you know, I don't know who come up with that idea, because I didn't know about it till late the night before. They kind of let slip that we were getting together at the ballpark at 9:30, and I had no idea what they were talking about. And then when we went out there, I wasn't sure what was happening exactly, and I thought it was I guess Coach Lacey and Coach Mike and Ashley come up with the idea. I wasn't sure about it. I was a little nervous because I really, you know, I feel bad for our kids. They've been through so much, and to put any more on them about it, it's like, ugh. But that was really relaxing. And when I got to play it the first time, I'm like, I never swing the bat in front. If you see me swing, you know why. I don't want them to see me swing the bat. And they're like, come on, coach, swing. And okay, you know, it's not fair to them if I don't, so I'll go up there and make a fool out of myself, and I did. But actually, after I swung like 10 times, I was like, man, I like this. Just keep pitching, you know. And I could just feel like the stress coming out of me every time the bat swung and hit the ball. It was really relaxing to me. Felt really good, and I thought, I'm going to start doing this on a regular basis, because it did relieve stress, and the kids laughing and the enthusiasm. And Gerry would have loved that. She loved hitting them. They knew they had country music, hitting under the lights, and then hitting home runs, because that was her favorite thing, was just go to the park and hit home runs. And so it was fun, and I enjoyed that night, and I enjoyed the smiles and laughing. I felt like the kids, a lot of things come out of them that night, especially some like Megan Kleiss wasn't able to attend the funeral, and so it would give her some closure. You know, as her and Gerry were really close when they were at Oregon. So there were some good things come out of that night, and I thought it was a really good moment for our ball club.
Well, you didn't have all that extra weight to get behind your swing.
Yeah, I don't know how much advantage that is, but you know, when I went home that night, I told my wife, I said, I think my back is really hurt. I may not be able to walk in the morning because I could feel it down my back, but I woke up the next morning a little sore, but not bad, so I survived it. But yeah, definitely need to get in better playing shape.